She wore the dress. She brought the gift. She showed up like family should. But when Elena saw where they seated her, she knew exactly what they thought of her. Not with words, not with hate, just a single chair near the kitchen doors. But what started as another silent insult turned into the kind of truth no one could ignore. And by the end of the night, she wouldn't just walk away. She'd leave everything behind except her dignity. At her sister's wedding, Elena noticed something strange. Her name wasn't on any of the family tables, not near the bride, not even close to the center of the room, just a lonely chair by the kitchen doors. She didn't cry. She smiled, nodded politely, and took her seat. But hours later, when she disappeared without a word, what happened next made the entire wedding freeze. Elena hadn't seen Claire in nearly 2 years. Not because of a fight, no dramatic falling out, just the quiet kind of distance that grows when one side stops calling and the other learns to stop hoping. Then the invitation arrived, thick cream cardstock, gold script, every letter pressed with the weight of wealth and tradition. A wedding. Claire was getting married. To Ethan Bennett. The name sounded expensive. Old money. Legacy. Elena held the envelope for a long time before opening it. It didn't come with a note. Just her name. Misspelled slightly. No +1. Still, she said yes. Not because she wanted to celebrate. Not because she thought she belonged. She just wanted to see what family looked like now, where and if she still fit into the picture. She found a dress that felt safe. Navy blue. Clean lines. Not flashy. Bought from a consignment shop. Hemmed by hand. Pressed twice the night before. She chose soft makeup. Tied her curls into a neat bun. Slipped in pearl earrings her birth mother had left behind in a box she'd only opened once before. On the morning of the wedding, she looked into the mirror and told herself, just show up. Just smile. Just survive it. The venue rose like a palace from another world, all white marble. Fountains. And vines trained to climb exactly where the designers intended. Not a leaf out of place. Inside, violins played. The air smelled of expensive roses and expectation. A valet opened her door with a practiced smile, one that faded half a second when he saw her. She stepped out anyway, chin up. The photographer scanned the arriving guests. His lens paused, then passed over her. Elena didn't flinch. She was used to being unposed. She smoothed the skirt of her dress, straightened her shoulders, and walked alone toward the entrance. Whatever this day held, she was ready to see it clearly no matter how much it might hurt. The lobby was filled with voices, polite laughter, heels tapping on marble, champagne flutes clinking in careful hands. Elena stepped through the grand glass doors alone. No one turned. No one waved. A few guests glanced her way, then quickly looked past, as if she'd walked into the wrong entrance. She smoothed the folds of her dress again, though it didn't need it. Her palms were dry, her shoulders squared, but inside, something had already begun to sink. At the check-in table, a young woman with a headset and perfect posture smiled without warmth. Name Elena Harper. There was a pause, just a breath too long. The woman flipped through the guest list, lips moving silently as her finger slid down the page. Then a flicker, something behind the eyes, recognition, maybe, or discomfort. Ah, yes, she said. Her smile returned too quick, too polished. You're at table 18, Vestage. She circled it on the chart. It's just over there. She gestured toward a side alcove, a half-shadowed corner near the kitchen doors. Elena's brow furrowed slightly. I thought family tables were in the main hall. They are, the woman said gently, but firmly. Unfortunately, those were filled early. We had to make adjustments. She said it like it was a spreadsheet problem, like Elena was a misplaced item in the system. Elena followed the direction of her hand. Table 18 sat alone, away from the chandeliers, from the laughter, from the camera flashes. No centerpiece, no name cards around it, just a single chair, a water glass, and a folded linen napkin, plain white. not gold-trimmed like the others. She turned back to the woman. Is this a mistake? The woman double-checked, then gave the kind of smile people use when they want to end a conversation quickly. No, she said. That's the placement. Elena nodded slowly. Of course. She took the small gold place card from the woman's outstretched hand. Her name shimmered in cursive, elegant, expensive, and painfully final. She walked toward her table. Each step echoed on polished marble like a quiet warning. You're here, but not really. You're invited, but not included. She pulled out the chair and sat down, alone. From here, she could see everything. The head table, the floral arch, her sister's smile. And not one person looking her way. Elena sat at the edge of the room, hands folded neatly in her lap. From where she was, the whole wedding unfolded like a show she was never cast in. The head table gleamed under gold light. Claire was radiant in lace and silk, beaming as if the whole world adored her, and maybe it did. Marlene hovered close, brushing a loose strand of hair from her daughter's cheek. David lifted a glass, smiling wide as guests laughed politely at his toast. They looked proud, polished, complete. Elena was just close enough to see their joy, but never close enough to be part of it. She stood quietly, smoothed her dress again, and walked across the hall. No one noticed. She reached the head table, waited until Marlene finished whispering something into Claire's ear, then stepped forward. Hi, she said, voice soft but steady. Sorry to interrupt. They sat me by the kitchen. Is that where I'm really supposed to be? Marlene turned her head, just enough to acknowledge her, not surprised, not apologetic. It's a full wedding, Elena, she said. We had to make choices. But I'm family, Elena said, not raising her voice, just stating a fact, a simple truth that somehow always needed repeating. Marlene's smile didn't waver. You're being dramatic. It's just a seat. David stepped in then, his tone rehearsed and calm. Elena, let's not do this today. This is Claire's moment. Claire didn't even turn around. She just sipped from her glass and laughed at something someone else had said. The moment stretched. Elena looked at both of them, two people who'd once promised to give her a home, and felt something shift inside her. Not anger, not even sadness. Just clarity. She nodded once. Got it. Then she turned and walked back to her seat. No one called after her. No one ever did. Elena returned to her seat, table 18, the one no one else had touched. The linen draped just right. The place setting untouched. A single glass of water. No wine, no bread basket, no name cards besides hers. She sat down slowly, adjusted nothing. Music drifted in from the dance floor. Someone clinked a glass. Laughter rose and fell in polished waves. Forks tapped against crystal. Toasts began. And still, no one noticed her. A waiter passed by twice, refilling others' drinks. He never glanced her way. Across the room, she could see the bridal party gathered in a circle of perfect hair, pastel gowns, and matching smiles. Claire was at the center. Of course, always the center. Elena didn't wave. She didn't try. She turned slightly, just enough to catch her reflection in the window behind her. A composed woman in navy blue, posture straight, shoulders calm, eyes tired. There was no pity in that reflection, only recognition. She had been preparing for this moment her entire life. Every school photo where she stood on the edge, every holiday card where she was placed just off-center, every birthday where the candle was lit. But the warmth never reached her. This wasn't new. It was just finally undeniable. She didn't cry. She didn't fidget. She didn't leave. She just sat there, still, present, because if they were going to seat her at the margins, she would let them see her in them. She stayed through the appetizers, through the toasts, through the first dance, because somewhere deep inside her, a quiet voice whispered, stay, watch, remember, not to hold on, but to finally let go. The applause swelled again as another round of toasts ended. Someone's voice cracked from emotion. Someone else raised their glass. A perfect evening, captured in amber. Elena rose quietly from her seat. No one looked up. She walked toward the far end of the hall, where the lights dimmed and the crowd thinned. Her heels clicked against the marble, echoing softly down a side corridor lined with framed oil paintings and fresh flowers arranged to match the bride's bouquet. Past the restrooms, past the coat room, deeper into the quieter spaces where guests weren't meant to wander. She just needed air, or at least the kind of silence that didn't scream. That's when she heard it. Voices. Laughing. She paused. It came from an open patio door just ahead, slightly ajar, spilling warm light into the hallway. She recognized the first voice instantly. Claire. God, Claire said between giggles. If I have to see Elena's face in one more family photo, I swear I'll scream. A burst of laughter followed. You're terrible, one of her bridesmaids gasped. No, I'm honest, Claire replied, her voice rich with amusement. She's just not one of us. Never has been. Elena didn't move. Her body stilled, but her heart dropped, not with surprise, but with confirmation. Another voice chimed in. Your mom is like a saint for taking her in. Seriously, not everyone would have done that. Claire scoffed. It wasn't kindness. It was strategy. Dad's company was getting slammed in the press. Taking her in looked good. Another laugh. Smart move. She doesn't even realize, Claire added. She walks around like she belongs. It's embarrassing. Elena turned her face slightly away from the door. The words didn't sting like knives. They landed more like stones, heavy, familiar, unchanging. Not new wounds, old ones reopened. She could have walked away, should have, maybe. But something rooted her in place. Not anger, just clarity, cold and exact. They never loved her. They just used her. Elena took a step back from the door, breath steady, heart strangely quiet. She wasn't surprised. Not anymore. What shocked her wasn't the cruelty. It was how easy it came to them. How casual. Like gossip. Like weather. She turned to leave quiet. Invisible. As always. But someone was already standing at the corner of the hallway. Ethan. The groom. Still in his tux. Still holding a half-full glass of champagne. But he wasn't smiling. He had heard everything. He wasn't supposed to be there, and yet there he was, frozen, pale, wide-eyed. Their eyes met. Neither spoke for a long moment. Finally, Elena said softly, You heard it, didn't you? Ethan nodded once. He looked stunned, like a man realizing the house he built was on sand. I didn't know, he said, voice low. Elena tilted her head slightly. Would you have believed it if I'd told you? That stopped him. He didn't answer, because the answer was obvious. No, she said for him. You wouldn't have... Ethan looked back toward the door, where the laughter still spilled out in cruel bursts. She's not who I thought, he murmured. Elena didn't flinch. She never was. Ethan's hand trembled around the glass. He put it down on a side table and pressed his palms together, like trying to keep from breaking apart. He turned to Elena again. What do I do? She didn't answer right away. Because for once, the weight wasn't hers to carry. She let him sit in it, feel it, own it. Then finally, she said, Start by not pretending you didn't hear it. He looked at her, really looked like he was seeing her for the first time. Will you help me? He asked. Elena didn't blink. I'm not here to protect anyone's image, she said, but I won't lie, either. That's enough, he said. And for the first time all night, someone meant it. Ethan didn't go back to the dance floor. He didn't rejoin the party. Instead, he found his mother, Celeste Bennett, sharp eyes, impeccable posture, the kind of woman who never raised her voice because she didn't need to. She listened. No gasps, no denials, no pity. When Elena played the recording, the patio laughter, the words that sliced Celeste remained perfectly still. Then she looked at her son and said, We're not letting this slide. There was no drama in her voice, just direction. A plan formed quickly, not revenge, not spectacle, just truth. They would call a private meeting before the toasts, before the crowd got too drunk to care. The room would be small, quiet, away from the cameras. Claire, her parents, Ethan, Celeste, and Elena. Ethan would lead. Celeste would support. And Elena, she would bear witness. Not to humiliate anyone, but to make sure the truth didn't get buried again. As they walked back through the long hallway, Elena's heels made no sound, but inside, her pulse was steady. This wasn't a confrontation. It was a reckoning. The grand hall was still alive with laughter, champagne, silk, and sparkle. No one noticed the three of them slipping away. No one knew the center of the story was already shifting. At the base of the stairs, Celeste stopped a staff member and spoke softly. Within minutes, 2 security guards took discreet positions near the upper level, not for protection for privacy. Ethan looked at Elena before they climbed. "You okay?" She nodded. "Are you?" He didn't answer, just started walking up the steps. And for the first time, Elena didn't follow behind. She walked beside him. The room was small but elegant mahogany walls, a long, polished table, and portraits of ancestors whose names no one remembered. Claire sat first, still flawless, still glowing in her gown, still unaware. David and Marlene followed. They looked confused, slightly annoyed. Interrupting their moment was, apparently, a bigger offense than dishonesty. Celeste remained by the door, arms crossed, eyes unreadable. Elena stood near the window, not hidden, not shrinking, just there. Ethan took the seat at the head of the table. He didn't look at Claire at first, just breathed. Then finally, "I want to talk before the toasts begin." Claire smiled, poised. "Sure, babe, what's going on?" Ethan reached into his suit jacket and placed an envelope on the table. White, heavy. Claire glanced at it, still smiling. "What's this?" "Annulment papers," he said flatly. The smile cracked just slightly. David sat up straighter. "Is this some kind of joke?" "No," Celeste said from the door. "It isn't." Claire looked between them. "Wait, what is going on?" Ethan picked up his phone and tapped the screen. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't dramatize. He just read, word for word. Claire's laughter on the patio, her jokes about Elena, the talk of saving face and diversity optics, the strategy, the performance. Silence filled the room like fog. Elena didn't look at Claire. She looked at Marlene. And what she saw wasn't shock, it was guilt. Claire's face drained. Her hands clenched in her lap. "This is out of context," she said, her voice brittle. "You don't understand." Ethan looked up. "I understand enough." Claire turned to her mother. "Say something." But Marlene's mouth opened, then closed again. David rubbed a hand across his face. Elena said nothing. She didn't need to. The words had already been spoken. All she had to do now was make sure no one could pretend they hadn't been. The ballroom hadn't changed. The chandeliers still shimmered. The band still played soft jazz. Glasses still clinked. Guests still laughed. But as Ethan stepped up to the microphone, a new weight settled over the room. He tapped the mic once. The sound cut through the noise like a warning. "Thank you all for being here," he said, "and for celebrating what was supposed to be a beginning." Heads turned. Smiles froze. "But before we go any further, there's something you all deserve to know." He pulled out the envelope, held it up, clear, unshaking. "This is an annulment agreement," he said, "effective immediately." Gasps, murmurs. One woman dropped her fork. Claire stepped out from the side, her smile frozen on her face. "Justin." "What?" But he kept going. He pulled out his phone, read the texts, the recordings. Claire's voice, laughing, her words about strategy, about not wanting Elena in the photos, about keeping up appearances. The room went still. Claire's face cracked. Her voice rose. It's not what it sounds like. They twisted it. Celeste stepped forward, calm, clear. And the divorce papers you filed last month, she asked. A deeper silence fell. Claire looked at her parents, pleading, but Marlene couldn't meet her eyes. David looked like stone. Then Claire's gaze swept the room, desperate, erratic, and landed on Elena. You, she shouted, pointing. You did this. Elena stood by the far column, alone, straight-backed. I didn't record your voice. She said, You did. Claire's face flushed red. You've always hated me, always wanted what I had. Elena didn't blink. I never wanted what you had. She said, voice steady, I just wanted to be seen. That line cut deeper than any insult. It hung in the air like a bell after it's been struck. Claire stared at her and then broke. Tears smeared her makeup. She spun around, shoved past two waiters, and fled through the main doors, her gown tearing at the hem. No one followed her. No one stopped her. The room didn't move. And Elena, she didn't smile. She didn't gloat. She just stayed standing. Because for the first time in her life, no one could look away from her. The ballroom was quiet now. Guests stood awkwardly near their tables. Some whispered, some avoided eye contact. No one laughed. The perfect wedding had cracked wide open and the wreckage was still settling. Near the dessert table, the cake sat untouched, icing flowers already beginning to sag under the heat. Elena didn't move right away. She just stood, watching. Not for revenge, not for applause, just to feel the weight lift. Marlene and David stood near the wall, speaking in low, rushed voices. They didn't look her way. Claire was gone, out the doors, into the dark. No one was chasing her. Elena turned and began walking toward the exit, slow, composed. A few people stepped aside as she passed, not rudely, not out of shame, just uncertainty, as if they were finally realizing she had been part of the story all along. Outside, the night was cool. The air smelled like pine and distant rain. Her phone buzzed once Marlene, then again David. She let it ring, then silenced it. She had no hate in her, but she was done explaining her existence. At the valet station, a young attendant jogged up with her modest sedan, the same one some guests had smirked at earlier. She opened the door herself, didn't wait for anyone to hold it, didn't look back. The tires hummed softly against the road as she drove away. The lights of the estate faded in the rearview mirror. And in her chest, a stillness took hold deep, wide, and new. She wasn't running. She wasn't lost. She was free. Not because they gave her permission, but because she finally stopped needing it. And for the first time in a long, long time, the road ahead felt like it belonged to her,